This winter I took apart my tower completely, emptied all of the planting medium that was in it. I'll leave links in the description box below for the source for this garden tower. I like this one, the concept of it, better than the new green stalks that I see, because this has the center compost, and then you can see that the soil goes all the way down instead of just in trays. And then this is the tube that you build upward through the center of it, the tower, slotted so that moisture can come and go. Worms can leave if they need to, if it gets too wet down the center, but this is what you build the center tube in, side of the rings for the vermiculture. So you're also able to get rid of your kitchen compost to feed these red wiggler worms. I will also put a source in the description box below for those. You can buy them online, they get shipped to you, and then you add them to the tube, which I described in my previous video from a couple years ago, where I actually put this tower up and refreshed it 1 year. So you can look at that video. This goes in here to collect the leachate that travels from the water, that travels through the tower soil, through the worm compost, and down into this tray. And then every day or so you water the tower 2-3 gallons a day, more if it's even drier. I have mine set up on a sprinkler system, a drip system, but then you empty this leachate either directly to the top of the tower again, or you can use it for houseplants or in your garden, but it's basically compost tea. And then at the end of the season, or anytime you want, you can remove this screen tray at the end of the season, or when you have enough compost in there that the worms have given you, then you can remove this screen and get your worm compost out of that area and use that in your plants or garden. It's a pretty slick system. It's a closed system. I don't have to weed it. All I have to do is plant it and water it. So I did take it apart. I moved it because of my new melon arch that I put over the whole area, which my son helped me with that. I actually had to move it because I had it 1 foot too close to my raspberries, and I knew I wouldn't be able to get in there, so I skinnied it up a little bit, and now it's even taller, which is good because that will, once the melons start growing up over that and hang down from the wire cattle panel, that can protect my tower from hail. And if I need to, I'll put a little strip of some sort of heavy barrier as a cover for the tower for hail. So it's been on my list to cover the tower to protect it from hail, but now I don't have to. This is killing 2 birds with 1 stone. So I've got one of the coir cubes rehydrated. I added some organic fertilizer to it, and I'm going to start building this tower, filling it up. Now you see I've got the tower, the worm tower is put together, the worm tunnel that goes in the center for composting. I'm going to try something. I have to zip tie those together, but the other thing I'm going to try is to put a stake down the side of inside there, because you can kind of see how it gets a little wonky. Alright, I think I found my groove with this. literally. This groove fits into that slot. It's this deep, the slot that this tab fits into, and you want it to be the same distance all the way around. And I think what I've been doing is pulling those zip ties too hard. That's the problem, is these slip and they get, if you tighten it down too far, then they get all wonky like this. I'm going to zip tie where the tab is. So I'm going to zip tie through this hole and this side hole. And then I'll lay that stake along the other side, and then that's where I will zip tie the stake through a hole. Okay, I have added quite a few more zip ties than I have in the past. But I think I've got it seated in there pretty straight this time. I ended up, and you can see the green post going down there, I have zip tied to it with every section. And then I have zip tied tight against where every tab seats in there. It's the opposite side down here that is always the trouble. That's the one that slips in and ends up getting all wonky. So I've tried to zip tie on the opposite side of where the tab seats in tight and stops, but not tightly, because then that'll cinch it down past the collar that it's supposed to seat in. So I think that's really my only complaint about the design of this, is they should have made the collars where the sections meet, they should have made the stops a little bolder so that it wouldn't get all wonky. But anyway, I've got it zip tied nice and tight against the tab, and then on the opposite side where I can, and against that garden post. That will hopefully keep it nice and straight. So now I can start adding my big rings and adding my planting medium to it. And the last collar on top, which is not slotted, this one goes on top, and I'm not gonna, I'll zip tie that too, but then that top cover goes on that isn't slotted, plus the vented cover goes on top of that. And that will complete the tower. The last cube got the base and one level filled. I have 5 more rings to fill with one cube. I don't think it's going to happen, so I'm going to have to use up some of my peat moss and steer manure and mix up my own to finish this. In the meantime, I'll get this rehydrating and see how far it gets me. Alright, the garden tower is filled. It worked out. I ended up using some of last year's soil from my planting bags. I've left the vents above soil. So it's ready for planting when the weather tells me it's ready. It needs to be May 15th for most things here, and June 1st for the warm weather crops like beans and things like that.